with, with some magical prayer until you evolve scholarly, sensitive, older, but still young, transformed in some goddess, now that you are not. Don't think that I think of you constantly, though it may seem so, or that I know your voice, your whisper, a sigh carried on midnight wings. I do see your velvet eyes in the quiet, stoic stare of a doe caught near the roses, defiant in the shade of twilight, determined to grasp a sweet. It's as though a butterfly blinks over synthetic grass, watching realities die. A feather falls from nowhere onto the hood of my car. A teardrop merges into the sea. It's just that you have become a part of all that I love, and loving you gives grace to grief, promises that endings born of beginning have begun again and again until the anguish wears thin, and you and I and the butterfly are one.
Mm. Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Elise, for opening up our time together this evening. The first candle we'll share is the candle of memory. While the deaths of those we now remember have left deep voids in our lives, it is our memories of them that help to keep their spirit alive, even while they are no longer with us. These special memories can make us laugh or smile, make us cry even. They can agitate us or make us angry. They can strengthen us and give us confidence, even make us strive to live life a little differently. It has often been said that a memory is a photo taken by the heart to make a special moment last forever. The candle of memory tonight represents those sacred memories, those pictures developed on our hearts that will forever shape and impact our lives. Tonight, the candle of memory will be shared with by Kaylee Deal. Kaylee?
Thanks, Jim. Hi, my name is Kaylee, and I was introduced to Cara 26 years ago when my dad, Cameron Deal, died by suicide. At the time, Cara was a place for me to process my grief with other children experiencing a similar journey. Now I'm grateful to be back, lighting a candle for him and for his father, my grandfather, who died of COVID this past year. Reflecting on the theme of memory, I was reminded how many times since my father died, I've been asked if I remember him and how my memories have changed over time. At my dad's funeral, 4.5-year-old me brought some of my favorite items to leave in the casket in case he needed them at some point. A small brush, a picture of his family, and a few other knickknacks. When I reached the front of the receiving line, I couldn't bear to part with my treasures. And the man before me didn't look as how I remembered him at all, full of energy, laughter, and light. My most prominent memory of that day were the balloons we carried up to the hill where he's buried. They were blowing around in the wind, bouncing off of each other, though now I couldn't tell you what color they were. When I was 11, I used to walk home from school with a classmate, Ethan, whose mother had died of cancer the year before. Sometimes, as we walked, we would compare the experiences of having a parent die at different times of our lives. He was grateful for a few extra years to build memories, and I felt lucky to have lost before knowing how permanent death could feel. We talked about forgetting and both the panic and relief that forgetting could elicit. I moved to Hawaii to live with my paternal grandparents in college. I wanted to get to know them better and reconnect with my dad's memory in the home where he grew up. One evening, I was invited into a neighbor's home for dinner. The family who'd grown up in the neighborhood with my father spent hours regaling me of stories of Cammy Boy's neighborhood shenanigans. They described him as vivacious, mischievous, and full of life. My dad was 27 years old when he died, 3 years younger than I am now. Recently, when I remember him, I'm struck by how much the world has changed in just those 3 years, and how many people have experienced grief and loss in such a short period of time. When my grandpa, my dad's last living parent, died of COVID in February, I was more upset than I was prepared for. My visit to him had been canceled in April of 2020, and I felt at first that I had been cheated of my last memories of us together. My grandpa, or Papa as I called him, was a man of few words, but during COVID, we spoke on the phone often. Sometimes he would call me to tell me about a book he had just read, and I would often call him to update him on my job hunt or the setup of my new apartment. Since his death, I've continued to make phone calls to my aunt, uncle, and cousins, building memories with them that otherwise I might not have been motivated to do. When someone dies, our ability to create memories does not die with them. My own memories of my father are tied into the many stories that I've been told of him through the years, and the woman that I've become is influenced both by his life and by his absence. His memory, and that of my Papa, lives on in all the people they loved and those that loved them back. Thank you.
The very first time learning to ride, without the training wheels or you by my side, down a steep hill, took a right, there was a car coming at me and one from behind, and you said don't let go, just hold on, keep your eye on the road and your heart in the song. Whatever happened is already gone, don't let go, don't let go. When I was 10, you bought me a guitar, and I said, Dad, I'm gonna be a big star. And you said, son, you gotta practice real hard. But to me, you already are. Don't let go, just hold on, keep your eye on the road and your heart in the song. Whatever happened is already gone, don't let go, don't let go. Then she took you to the doctor, get you checked out, to see what those headaches were really about. When you got back, I feared the news was bad. Now I'm saying these words to you, Dad. Don't let go, just hold on, keep your eye on the road and your heart in the song. Whatever happened is already gone, don't let go, don't let go. Then I heard your voice, all my fears disappeared. I knew exactly why we are here. It's for this moment to recognize that you will always be by my side, and I won't let go. I'm holding on, got my eye on the road and my heart in the song. Whatever happened is already gone, don't let go, and I won't let go. I'm holding on, got my eye on the road and my heart in the song.
Thank you so much, Kaylee, and thank you, Judy and Bob, for that wonderful music. The second candle tonight is the candle of hope. When we're grieving and we hear others talking about hope and resilience, sometimes it can feel hollow and even discouraging. That's why I've always thought the concept of hope is so complicated. When you're in the midst of navigating a loss, hope seems more elusive than possible. Over time, however, we begin to look for a different hope, what I consider a renewed hope. It is a hope that is framed within the context of accepting the permanence of death and looking into the future with the belief that there can be unexpected positives or opportunities on the horizons. The candle of hope tonight represents that renewed hope we yearn for as we travel along the road of loss, that we can navigate the challenges of the journey and perhaps embrace a destination we've not been to before. Tonight, the candle of hope will be shared with by Jake Hamlin.
Jim, and thanks everyone for being here. So my name is Jake Hamlin. My history with Cara goes back almost 30 years, which is mind-blowing. My dad passed away when I was 7 years old, and I want to talk a little bit about what happens when that much time passes. When he died, obviously it felt like that was the defining feature of my life, and things were never going to be the same, and that turned out to be true. But also, I found myself on a path. And before I talk a little more about that, I want to kind of share another detail that happened. When I was 19, I was diagnosed as autistic, and as very often happens to people on the spectrum at that time, not only was I diagnosed, but posthumously my dad was also diagnosed. And thinking about all of the things that all of the struggles that he had in his life, and unlike a lot of people on the spectrum, he actually got everything he ever wanted. He had this wonderful family, this dream job, and then cancer just came and ripped him away. And I, for most of my life, had always had this story hanging over my head. And this year actually is a really poignant one, because I'm going to outlive him. And obviously, those of us who've lost parents, who experience that, there's a whole lot of challenging emotions that come up. But the one that really keeps happening over and over again in my head is this idea of rebirth, and that all of the struggles that I had over the course of my childhood, over the course of grieving my father, molded me into this person that I am, who is about to outlive him, who has gotten my life into a wonderful place. And after a lot of twists and turns, and many of you know sort of how unpredictable life can be, I've now found myself in a good place with my own dream job. And I want to share with you guys tonight that when you start the journey, it feels like it's never going to end. And that's true. It's never going to end. But it's also not a terrible journey. And that, there's a permanence to death that is real, but there's a temporariness to the stuck and the struggle, and that life does indeed, as cliche as it sounds, life does indeed continue. And that my dad is both gone and still here, as all of your loved ones are, by carrying on your memory of them. And that's what I want to share with you guys tonight.
Thank you, Jake. We appreciate those thoughts on hope. The next candle that we'll move into is the candle of love. Many symbols, quotes, and poems, many symbols, quotes, and poems, songs and works of art, and now even digital emoticons have been created to define or express love. Dr. Seuss, who's one of my favorite doctors, said this about love. You know you're in love when you don't want to fall asleep because reality is finally better than your dreams. The amazing thing about love is that no matter how it is defined or expressed, it is usually easily recognized when we see it. There is something that resonates deeply with us as human beings when we witness an act of love exhibited through kindness or compassion to others. Love empowers us and motivates us to sacrifice our own well-being or safety for others oftentimes. Love is a true gift, whether given or received. Tonight, the candle of love will be shared by Vicki Moore. Vicki?
Thank you. On September 2nd, 2019, my husband of 35 years, Scott, and my 26-year-old daughter, Kendra, died in the middle of the night with 32 others aboard a dive boat that caught fire off of Santa Cruz Island. In an instant, my life was turned upside down. I had just lost half of my family. Our house became a flurry of activity. Food and flowers flowed in daily. A steady stream of concerned family and friends came to the door. The love and caring expressed to me and my family was overwhelming and beautiful at the same time. The amazing thing was that right before I dropped off my husband at the Santa Barbara Harbor and hugged my daughter at the boat dock before that fateful scuba trip, my husband told me about a former high school student of his that died of suicide. I told him this was the one thing in life that I didn't think I could ever recover from. A few weeks later, I started my weekly sessions with a truly remarkable peer counselor from Cara. Her listening, guidance, understanding, and suggestions guided me to my recovery. It enabled me to move forward and experience my grief head on and without fear. Reading was my solace, and I started meditating and exploring different spiritual practices. I learned from a few authors about continuing your relationship with your loved ones after their passing. I read books on quantum physics, about near-death experiences, acceptance that the grief doesn't go away, but that life does get better. I spoke to Scott and Kendra every day. I always knew that physical death was not the end. It simply made no sense to my logical mind and the physical laws of conservation of energy. They couldn't truly be gone, vanished entirely from this universe. Quantum physics made it clear that our human minds and senses only know about a tiny fraction of what is actually out there. And rather quickly, I began to realize that my love for my husband and daughter had grown to another dimension since they left the earth. At first, I was ashamed that I didn't feel this depth of love while they were alive. A tinge of guilt, perhaps, that I took them for granted too much. I loved them, but I now saw them so differently. I saw how much Scott had given to me, the experiences I had because of him, how the person I am today was shaped so profoundly by him. The gratitude was overwhelming, and at the same time, I was so sad that he couldn't be with me to grieve our firstborn child. And I saw how Kendra changed my life. I became a mother and learned what unconditional love really meant. A few years before his passing, Scott said that if he were to die before me, that he would want me to find a new partner and be happy and live a full life. I told him I would expect the same of him, and that was a true gift that he gave me. I benefited greatly from my second Cara peer counselor focused on spouse loss. She was with me every step of the way as I navigated the unfamiliar waters of seeking a new partner, just as Scott had wished for me. And now I'm in a very caring and special relationship and know that Scott is happy for me. And Kendra grew into a truly remarkable young woman, and we were intensely proud of her. She had many close friends, and many of them I now consider my friends. We have an annual Zoom call and summer gathering, and several I see throughout the year. And I love it that the love that they have for Kendra is reflected in their lives, and I relish in witnessing this. So through all of this, my capacity for love has expanded more than I could have imagined. I am thriving today because of this phenomenon. My love for Kendra and Scott is so all-encompassing now, so pure, transcending my earthly love for them. It is unencumbered love, not diminished by day-to-day living, annoyances, frustrations, and such that go with one's lifetime relationships with their loved ones. And my love for so many others, those that knew Kendra and Scott so well, those friends and family members that have come into my life in such a heartfelt and caring way, is also caused for the expanded room in my heart. I was able to let down my emotional guard, my little protective shield that limited how many people could be included into my love circle. I let them in. It was a little uncomfortable and scary at first, but it was the only way. And now there's no going back. I'm doing my best to live a life that honors them. I want them to be proud of me. I am no longer afraid of almost anything. Bringing so much love into my life has vanquished over my fears. It is so liberating. And most importantly, I know that Scott and Kendra know how much, and so many others, how much they love them. And they reflect that love right back to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for your sharing, and thank you, Stephen, for that music. The next candle tonight is the Candle of Courage, our fourth candle. Maya Angelou once said the following: one isn't necessarily born with courage, but one is born with potential. Without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue with consistency. We can't be kind, true, merciful, generous, or honest. Courage helps us to be honest with our true feelings and emotions as we face our fears. Courage helps us navigate the unpredictable and the unknown. It's not always about fearlessness and extraordinary acts of bravery, as our society and social media feeds often highlight. A definition of courage that I particularly appreciate is having strength in the face of pain or grief. It is quite fitting that the definition includes the perspective of grief, as we know firsthand at Cara that reaching out for support when you're bereaved is truly a courageous act. When courage is embraced, however, it helps us deal with the unpredictable and the unknown. It helps us to live with the unchangeable or permanence of death. Courage frees us to love again and helps us to reimagine dreams, and even helps us to even take chances. Tonight, the Candle of Courage is being shared with by Casey Wicker. Casey?
I am deeply honored to have this opportunity to be with you all this evening, to speak to the candle, the light of courage. When I think of courage, I get this image of getting ready for battle, to fight something that's not wanted. Even in my body, it makes me stiffen my core, to become bigger, to shore myself up against something. I've got this, to say I've got this, no matter the fear or hesitation, to persevere over something. In August of this year, I lost my sister Nancy. And courage, when it comes to grieving, wasn't about any of these things. Courage meant I needed to soften myself. Courage meant allowing and not fighting over something. Being willing to sit with the tough feelings, thoughts, and experiences. Nancy's passing was unexpected. She died of a heart attack, alone in her home, found days after the incident. I was stunned when I got the call. In fact, I asked, "Are you talking about our sister Nancy?" Immediately, my heart ached, and I was so sad she died alone in the days that passed after. I come from a large family, one of 7, and regrets reverberated among my siblings. One pronounced, "Shame on us." That comment hit me to the core of my grief and was a huge red flag for me. There were many things to regret around Nancy's passing. In fact, Nancy's passing opened a floodgate of grief. For the Nancy we knew, we lost slowly over the past couple of years, and her passing was an opening to grieve this. Nancy had many losses in her life, and she didn't know how to soften, to allow, to move through the process of grief. The pain didn't lift from her. She hardened herself up, shored herself for battle, and that is what she found almost on a daily basis, a battle. She had gone through a rough divorce the past few years, and during this time, we were losing Nancy to alcoholism. She turned to alcohol to avoid being with the pain of grief. The last few years, she became someone I didn't recognize. Moving through grief takes courage. That red flag I mentioned earlier, shame on us, caused me to examine my own heavy heart. The regrets felt like they weighed a ton. But when one of my sisters claimed, "We are broken, our family is broken," I thought, no, we are not broken, we are grieving. And I realized that regret is stagnant. It has no place to go, but grief is fluid. And when thoughts of regrets came up, I chose to grieve. I felt a tremendous amount of grief over what I wished for Nancy in her life that would no longer have the chance to come to fruition. So many things I had hoped for her. Her divorce was final. She moved into a new house. They say time heals all wounds, but Nancy doesn't have more time, and I wanted my sister back. There was so much sadness in me, and courage allowed me to create the space to grieve all those things I hoped for her. Grief isn't easy, but having the courage to grieve, this is what moves me forward. Through my journey, I had to ask myself, what is it I really believe in? And I believe that Nancy is indeed herself again. That when she passed, the struggles she had were left behind, and her spirit returned to that love and light that she came into this world as. Grief is difficult and uncomfortable, and at the same time, it is sacred because it means someone meant something to you. Nancy's life mattered. She meant something to me. Thank you for letting me hold this space for her tonight, and thank you to Cara for many, many times over the years being my safe place to heal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Casey. Our final candle is the candle of community. The true essence of community is human connection. When our neighbors get sick, we feel something inside of us. When our colleagues at work experience a tragedy, we are moved in our hearts. When we hear about a death in the community, we rally and support the grieving, often collectively. We bring flowers, we make dinners, we run errands, we donate sick leave, we become advocates, and we put those who are suffering above ourselves. Novelist Herman Melville once said, "We cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our fellow man and woman." Tonight, we are all connected by the threads of loss, each here remembering those special people in our lives who have died. And simply by being present with each other, we are caring for and supporting each other in community. Tonight, the candle of community is being shared by Roberto Mendez. Roberto?
Good evening, and thank you for the honor to present the candle of community. My name is Roberto Mendez. I have known Cara since 2005, when one of the United Airlines customer service employee passed away. When the employees came to me and asked for help, I immediately contacted Reina Lehman, who was the director of the community service from the San Mateo Central Labor Council, and she was the one who referred me to Cara. They immediately provide us with all the help that was needed. Years later, a passenger committed suicide jumping from the third floor in Terminal 3 of San Francisco Airport. The incident affected a lot of people, employees and non-employees. I contacted Cara, and they were the ones that provide all the help that I was needed, all the support that I was needed. Cara also helped my wife when she lost her younger sister. Her mom, within 6 months, 6 months period, and she was having a very hard time dealing with her loss. I advised my wife to contact Cara, and Rosario was the one who walked her through her worst days. Thank you, Rosario. Also, Rosario has been the one who inspired me to become a Cara volunteer. Today, I can say I'm a Cara volunteer, and I'm very proud of it. Now I will do this in Spanish because I was asked to be doing in Spanish too. So, buenas noches, mi nombre es Roberto Méndez. Yo conozco a Cara desde el año 2005, cuando uno de los empleados de United Airlines, un customer service, murió. Cuando los empleados me preguntaron por ayuda, inmediatamente contacté a Reina Lehman, quien era la directora del Community Service del San Mateo Central Labor Council. Ella me refirió a Cara. Inmediatamente contacté a Cara y me proveyeron toda la asistencia necesaria. Años después, un pasajero se suicidó en San Francisco, en el aeropuerto de San Francisco, saltando del tercer piso y muriendo. Esto afectó a muchos empleados, no solo empleados, sino que pasajeros. Contacté a Cara de nuevo y ellos inmediatamente me provieron toda la asistencia necesaria. Cara me ayudó con mi esposa cuando ella perdió a su hermana menor y a su mamá en un periodo de 6 meses. Mi esposa estaba pasando por unos momentos muy difíciles y Rosario vino a hacer la ayuda que necesitaba. Rosario trabajó con mi esposa y la caminó por los días muy difíciles. Gracias, Rosario. Rosario ha sido quien me ha inspirado a ser un voluntario de Cara. Y hoy puedo decir muy orgullosamente que soy un voluntario de Cara. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much, Roberto. Now we'll have another song from Stephen. Thank you so much, Roberto, for sharing on the Candle of Community, and Stephen for your music tonight with us. Now we move into our community candle lighting. We now invite everyone to participate in our candle lighting ceremony to honor and remember each of our loved ones who have died. We'll start the ceremony with the reading of the poem, We Remember Them. Please feel free to join in the poem's refrain, We Remember Them. So it's okay to take your self off of mute in this part of the ceremony. At the conclusion of the poem, Judy and Bob will perform their original song, Light a Candle. As the song begins, or any time during the song, please feel free to light a candle or turn your electronic votive on, and share it into your screen if you feel prompted to. So I'll move that along to Kathy for our poem.
We remember them. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them.
Remember them. We remember them.
At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we
We
remember them.
remember them.
At the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them.
Remember them.
At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember
We
them.
remember them.
At the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember
We
them.
remember them.
At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too shall live, for they are a part of us. We remember them.
Thank you, Kathy.
Some days could cut, some nights are fragile, the shadow of despair lives in between. Some days are lost, some nights are never ending, trying to close up and not be seen. Light a candle,
Be the flame,
drive away the dark, light a candle,
be the flame,
deep in your heart, light a candle,
be the flame.
let hope be the spark.
I have known pain, I have known suffering, feel it when the shadow grows. Now in your memory, here is an offering, a simple way to keep you close.
Light a candle,
Be the flame,
drive away the dark, light a candle,
be the flame,
deep in your heart, light a candle,
be the flame.
let hope be the spark. There was a time I did not understand, now through tears I know. What can I do but offer up my hand? A time for stories, a time for listening, feel the fit of someone else's shoes. Gather together, we are remembering though it's not an easy thing. We do light a candle,
Be the flame,
drive away the dark. Light a candle,
be the flame,
deep in your heart. Light a candle,
be the flame.
let hope be the spark. Light a candle,
Be the flame,
drive away
in
the
the
dark.
dark.
Light a candle,
Be the flame,
deep in your heart. Light a candle,
be the flame.
let hope be the spark. Let hope be the spark. Let hope be the spark. Let hope be the spark.
Thank you, Bob and Judy. The flames of memory, hope, love, courage, and community, and all of our individual candles glow to remember those who have gone before us. These collective flames combine to light the darkness around us and remind us that we are not alone in our grief. And we each have our own beautiful stories of those who are living, and especially of those who are no longer with us. The memories that bridge the past, present, and future, and the hope and love that inspires meaning in our lives. As we conclude our time together tonight, I'd like to express my gratitude for each of you joining us tonight and hope that the service has provided a measure of comfort and meaning in a special way to you. I wish you all good health and wellness as we wind down 2021 and move into the new year. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night.